Hello, running fans. Robert Johnson, Let'sRun.com here. Got my coworkers, Weldon and Jonathan here. We're going to preview the Valencia Marathon and half marathon for you right now, real quick. Are you ready for this? This is going to be one of the greatest days in distance running history. The fields are stacked. $6 million are going into this race. The so-called World Marathon Majors, Berlin, Boston, New York, they didn't hold the races this year. Valencia has managed to get it done. There's a reason why it's called the city of running, La Ciudad de Correr. They have a world-class reputation, and it's well-deserved. Can't wait for it. Jonathan, why don't you tell us, what can we expect in the marathon? You've labeled this the deepest marathon in history. Explain why.
Yeah, I mean, you just look at the fields, Robert. It's unmatched, the depth. You know, maybe not at the very top, even though we have some real studs running here in Bahanu Legesse and Lawrence Chirono and Lalisa de Sisa. But if you go a bit further down, there are 23 guys with sub 207 PRs, 25 under 208, 35 under 210, 44 under 212. You're not going to see this kind of depth at the Olympics. You're not going to see it in a World Marathon Major. Simply unprecedented. Very similar on the women's side. 17 under 224, 19 under 225. That is what makes it what we have called, quite rightly, the deepest marathon ever.
I mean, those numbers are staggering. Look at the chart, everybody. I mean, 35 runners under 210. I looked it up right before we did this show. In the history of America, only 20 Americans, according to All Time Athletics, have ever broken 210. They've accomplished that feat 43 times in history. So, I mean, I'm wondering if in a single race we'll have more sub 210s than has all been done in U.S. history.
Yeah, I think looking at the times, in terms of what they're going to run on Sunday, we should see fast times. Now, there was a press conference this morning, and Bahanu Legesse was part of it. He said he thinks he can break the world record, and they were wondering, like, do you think you can do it this weekend or, like, in the future? And he sort of intimated this weekend. And this is Legesse. He's the third fastest guy ever, 2:02:48 PB. Second in Berlin last year behind Bekele. And he's won Tokyo the last 2 years. The problem, and Robert, maybe we'll get to this, you love to check the weather, is the wind is forecast to be about 15 to 25 miles per hour on Sunday. Not ideal for running. But it's kind of a shame because with the fields assembled, you would think, certainly in the half and maybe maybe not in the full, these records will be under threat.
That's crazy, John. I had not heard that this could be a world record marathon attempt. I mean, no one even really thinks about that. It's so fast now, 2:01:39. We were previously thinking that records could fall in the half marathon, but oops, now we may have to redo our charts. Here's the field in the men's marathon. I mean, it is stacked. Legesse has the 2:02:48, but I mean, I don't even know if he's the favorite in this race, right? Like Lawrence Chirono, who won, I'm getting my years mixed up here since we haven't had any races. He's won what, Boston and Chicago? What year? Last year?
2019. Yeah. He's won 5 of his last 6 marathons. I mean, nobody wins at that rate except for the man named Eliud Kipchoge, who just lost in London. And John, in the article you wrote, the preview article, I think you raised a great question. If Bahanu Legesse, Lawrence Chirono, or maybe Lalisa de Sisa, one of the big names, wins this race, will they be viewed as the #1 marathoner in the world over Eliud Kipchoge? I mean, Kipchoge's track record over the last 5 or 6 years is unprecedented. But hey, the rankings are you're only really as good as your last race or two. So to me, if a Chirono or a Legesse wins this race, I definitely have to consider them the world #1.
Yeah, I think so. Especially, if Legesse, if he's getting in the 2:01 territory, again, it's kind of interesting. He made this comment, and then the race organizers were kind of Paco Barral, who's the race director, was sort of like, well, we always chase records in Valencia. We're always about the records, and they thought they had a pretty good chance in the half. The full marathon, they're like, well, we're not totally sure. I think it kind of even surprised them that Legesse would mention the world record. But certainly, if he runs like 2:02 low here or something and beats this field, or if any one of those guys like Chirono, de Sisa, something like that, yeah, I do think I think probably those three, if one of those three wins, you probably have to say they're the world #1 right now. And then, we see what Kipchoge does in 2021. Maybe he regains that title.
All right, let's turn to the women's race real quick. I mean, again, unprecedented death there as well. 8 women under 221, 13 under 223. That's the record. The most ever for sub 223 in one race is 11. You can see the entire field there. John, do you have a favorite on the women's side?
I mean, I'm very interested to see what Perez Jepchirchir does, because she's just been absolutely terrific this year. In her 2 races, this fall, she has broken the half marathon women's only world record both times out. The thing, she's only run 2:23 in the marathon, but that's because she's really only run one serious marathon outside of Kenya, and that was in Saitama, Japan last year, and she won that. So I don't know if she's the favorite. I don't really know if there is a favorite, because Rudiaga, Bahan Depaba, they're both major champions. I mean, Jocelyn Jepkosgei was tremendous in her marathon debut in New York last year. She almost broke the course record there. So I think there's 4 or 5 very, very good women, but I don't think any of them stands out as a favorite.
And then, folks, if that's not exciting enough for you, before that goes off, they're going to have 2 half marathons. And if it wasn't going to be so windy, I would think that at least one world record would fall in one of these 2 races. The men's race, absolutely stacked. You've got the top 2 finishers from the World Half Marathon Championships, and Jacob Kiplimo and Kibwa Kandi, one of Uganda, one of Kenya. And then what I'm really excited to see is, when we know how they stack up sort of just a few weeks ago at the World Half Marathon Championships, but you're adding in Ronan Caputo, the guy who has the world record holder in the 10,000 on the roads, 26:24. This guy wasn't even wearing those super stacked shoes when he did that. He beat Kiplimo at the World Juniors 2 years ago. Really exciting to see his debut in the half marathon here. And then you've also got Bindon Karaoke, Stephen Kiprop, other guys that have broken 59 flat. Totally stacked field. Really, this would be a race almost to do a show on just by itself, and then we've got 3 other races besides it.
Yeah, the fields in the half are crazy. Like you said, if this was the only entree of the day, we could just do a show on the men's half marathon. It's absolutely stacked. And I guess the question is, we're talking about possible world record. The world record is 58:01 by Jeffrey Kamworor. So if that world record goes, you got to start talking about 57-minute half marathons. Do you guys think that's a possibility?
I mean, I think someone can break 58 in the next few years, but I'm not convinced it will be on Sunday. I mean, I know I like to give Robert crap for, going crazy over the weather, but 15 to 25 mile per hour winds. I mean, we saw how much it slowed down the race when the World Half was held in Valencia in 2018. They're running basically the same course. I just think it's going to be tough. They might get a big tailwind at the end, but that headwind early on might be too much to overcome.
If we were going to look for a world record, I would have expected it to come in the women's race. That was until there was a late last-minute withdrawal today. Sinbera Teferi, the women's world record holder of 5,000 meters, was going to be making her half marathon debut.
Lieutenant
excuse me, got the wrong name there. Brain fart there. Lieutenant Gade, the world record holder of 5,000 meters, was going to be making her half marathon debut. She's got a pretty good excuse for not showing up. There's a war in her region of Ethiopia, so she was not able to travel to the race. So, war going on, we'll give you a pass on that one. I was extremely excited to see that, because the women's world record, just on a percentage basis, is a little bit weaker than the men's world record. If you compare, the records versus, the men's and women's gap, at the marathon, it's only about a 10% gap. And for the half marathon, it's an 11% gap. So the women's world record should be about 20 or 30 seconds faster than what it is on a percentage basis. So it's a little bit softer. It seemed possible for someone of the talent of Gade. But with her not in it, we still have, Teferi. I guess, John, she's got to be considered the favorite now. Yeah,
I mean, she's really good. Sinbera Teferi, she's a medalist in the worlds on the track, and in 2019, she broke the Ethiopian record twice with a best of 65:32. Now, that doesn't look quite as impressive now, given that 2 Ethiopians have blown way past her, with Yahualor in winning in Delhi last week, and then also Abel Yashana setting the world record earlier this year. But I think Teferi could really lower that PB, depending on the weather. And then you've also got the world record holder in the 1,500 meters, Genzebe Dibaba, who, she hasn't raced since August 2019. So, and she's never raced beyond 5,000 meters, I don't think. So who the hell knows what to expect from her. But she's certainly an interesting name to watch.
I don't need to hear about Debabas in Spain, John. I'm just going to leave it at that. We also another big thing in the half marathon for American fans. Does Emily Sisson get the American record? She's in this race. We also have American Jordan Hasay in the full marathon, but those are the two Americans crossing the Atlantic. She's targeting in the half. Sisson's targeting Molly Huddle's 67.25. I guess it's like everything else we're talking about. How bad is the actual wind? And there's one other question for Sisson. It's like, does she have anyone to run with? Because the crazy thing is, the top women will be going 65 minutes. So is there anyone for her to run 67, or can she solo an American record?
I would normally say yes, she could solo the American record. She's aiming to go out 67 flat pace. So she's got about a 25-second cushion based on her fitness, according to Coach Ray Tracy. But what concerns me is the wind. She's going to have a harder time breaking the wind because there's not going to be a pack with her to block the wind. She's going to be doing it all on her own. I still think, though, that her breaking this record is much more likely than any of the world records going down. I think she's still got a good shot at it despite the wind. I'm really excited to see what she can do on Sunday in this one.
Yeah, I think she's got a good shot at it as well, Robert, for the reasons you laid out. Any quick takes on Jordan Hasay before we finish this thing up?
Well, I was listening to our podcast, when we were talking about Hasay the other day on my run, and I think we kind of, if you actually think about what we've all said, we're all kind of in agreement. She's a 2:21 marathon or 2:20, 50 something. We don't have super high expectations for her, and we think that really anything within 15 seconds per mile of that would be pretty decent. So that would be like 6.5 minutes. So basically 2:27:30 or faster, I think, is a decent performance for her. But I'm going to keep my fingers crossed. But the more I thought about it, the more optimistic I am. I mean, she recently ran that half marathon. It was a disaster by her standards, but she ran 74 minutes, and she said, I can go the whole way. Someone that talented, I think she could easily run a 2:29. That's not going to be a problem for her. So I think 2:27 is a decent over-under. I mean, it's not that impressive when your PR is 2:20, but come on, Jordan, let's run 2:25 and see what we can do.
Click the wrong button there, people. Sorry about that.
Hey, if you want to get a t-shirt that looks just like that beautiful yellow singlet, go to shop.letsrun.com. The new letsrun.com t-shirts that were inspired by our original singlet are out. You can get yours right now.
Well,
that was great.
Do you just have a button on your computer you can press anytime to relive the glory days?
I don't know what I was doing. The dog started making some noise, the joys of working from home from COVID. All right, we said we do a 10-minute show. We're going to do 15 minutes. We need predictions. All right, first of all, let's do the men's half marathon. Just who's the winner, guys? Who do you think is going to win it? I guess winner and world record, yes or no?
Well, Kiplimo won the world half over Candier. I think he's the best half marathoner in the world right now, so I'm going to pick him. And I don't think the world record goes down.
I'm just going to go out on a limb. I just love Ronix Kipruto's name. He's also very good. I like to see upsets. So Ronix Kipruto for me, I guess no world record.
Definitely no world record. I would love to see Kipruto win this. Again, this race reminds me somewhat of what we saw at the World Half. Everyone thought Joshua Cheptegei was the man. He's unbeatable. No one can touch him. He's the next greatest thing. He's the next Gabriel Celeste. He's the next Bekele. All of a sudden, he loses that race, and people are wondering, wait a minute, is he even the best guy in his own country? There's a guy younger than him. Kiplimo, is he better? Is he going to be the future? We could see that in this race. If Kipruto wins this race, we're going to be wondering, wait a minute, is he actually the new king of distance running? And if he wins this race, I think we're really going to have a situation just like in men's tennis, where we had Federer, Nadal, and Djokovic. You're going to have Kipruto, Kiplimo, and Cheptegei, just three all-time greats, all at the same time competing. It's going to be magnificent.
Okay, women's half with G'day out. We're just going to discuss, does Emily Sisson get the American record? I say yes.
I say yes as well.
Let's go 3 for 3. It's time to be optimistic. It's been such a downer of a year. Can we actually do something weird and thank COVID? Because without COVID, we would not have these great fields. There's been so much pent-up demand, so many canceled races. When people found out that this race was going to go on with this big budget and this big field, everyone signed up. So this is going to – what we're seeing in December this year is way better. Normally December is a dead month. It's going to be one of the best months for distance fans in a long, long time. Hope everybody enjoys it. Can't wait. It's going to be only negative, John. What time are these races if people want to try to watch them in the U.S.?
2 a.m. Eastern time. Set those alarm clocks or try pulling all-nighter because that's Sunday morning, 2 a.m. Eastern time.
Or watch on demand, people. Come on. All right, men's full marathon quickly. Who do you guys got? Man, I wasn't going to pick Legasse, but now he's talking world record. I just don't see Chirono winning this thing in a fast. I like Chirono's pedigree, but I don't see him winning a super fast race. So for whatever reason, I'm going with Legasse. I like people who talk big.
Yeah, I'm the same, Weldon. I think they were all Legasse, Chirono. I mean, these guys haven't raced in a while. Legasse did win Tokyo, I guess, back in March. But yeah, when you're talking about, hey, I think I can break the world record, he must feel like he's pretty fit. So he's already a stud. I'm going to go with him.
Hey, I can't argue with brilliance on your guys' side. Let's go 3 for 3.
Wow, this show's getting boring here. Women's race, I'm going with a name actually we didn't mention before. Jocelyn Jepkowski. She's actually run super fast at shorter distances, former world record holder. She has not run super fast in the marathon, but she's your defending New York City Marathon champion or reigning New York City Marathon champion. So being a Northeasterner now, former New York City resident, I got to go with her.
I'm going to take Perez Jepchirchir. Looked great winning the World Half. That stuff doesn't always translate, but I know she's in pretty good shape. So I think it would be great for the sport to have another big marathon star. I'm going to go with Jepchirchir.
You guys ever heard of Jordan Hussein? That's my pick.
Pretty funny, Robert. All right, everyone. Check it out. We have a podcast, Let'sRun.com Track Talk, that broke down this race in more detail. Previews up at Let'sRun.com. And if you want one of the famous Let'sRun.com t-shirts, go to shop.Let'sRun.com.